Hey guys, welcome back to the garden. So sorry for the long radio silence. It's been busy and lots of things have been happening, so I have not had time to make videos. Today is another installment in the series of what have I learned in the 9 years that I have been making this food forest. And today is all about mulch. So super important, and I always have different kinds of mulching experiments going on in the garden, so I'm going to show a few of them to you today. And first I want to start with this bit over here in this new space besides the food forest is all about my annuals. And I mulch differently when these are when this is the beds for the annuals, because I have more wiggle room. I don't have so many plants that I have to be careful about. So every second year or so I add compost just on top. It's a no-dig garden bed. It's a huge bed. And if you want to learn more about no-dig gardening, please have a look at Charles Dowding. He is amazing and super inspiring. But anyway, what I will do is I took this wheelbarrow of compost, and I'm just going to add that to just on top. And I cleaned it out a little bit because so many things were growing here, and I just wanted to be fresh soil, touching fresh soil. And it doesn't need to be a lot, but when you are growing annuals, I think it's important to add compost or other organic material, because your annuals need a lot more nutrients to make the growth in a few months. So on top of that, I am adding, if I can get my hands on it, I'm adding sheep's wool. And depending on how much I have, I'm adding about this much on a bed like this. And you'd be surprised how fast the sheep wool is actually composting. I know I was. The reason why I prefer only to use sheep's wool in the annual beds is because with a lot of the beds with perennials, I also have a lot of self-seeded plants, and they will die underneath the wool. So that's why I prefer it this way. And then what I do now, these have survived the summer in a box. So these are seedlings from this spring, but they might grow back and give us a little harvest in spring, coming spring. And so I'm just going to make a little bit of a hole in the wool and collect and just push the wool back in around. So what you have going on with the wool is amazing. This has lots of minerals and nutrients and proteins, but also has a lot, about 10% nitrogen. So it will decompose, and it will release nitrogen and minerals, and all will be happy. So why not add that? And I think even more important with the wool is that there's no evaporation. And something that's super important in your annual beds, because you will have, even with quite narrow spacing between your small plants, you will have a lot of bare soil, much more than you will in your perennial beds. So that's why I love the wool as an addition to your vegetable garden. So I mean, right now it's still quite lush and beautiful. So I just made this little bit to show you, and in the next coming in a month or so I will start clearing this out and adding compost and adding wool as much as I can. So that's the wool mulching experiment. Amazing if you can get your hands on it. I've got three other examples. So a month ago or so, my husband and I made a seaweed potato bed for spring, and that's another mulching experiment that I think works really well for potatoes and probably also for other things, chard or some other vegetables that don't mind a little bit of salt. I mean, mulching is, I love this kind of work. It's feeding the soil, and it makes me happy to do it. So this bed is just seaweed collected, and we put it on top of some newspaper, and this will start to decompose in winter, and then in spring we will just make little holes and add potatoes, and they should be happy in this altogether. Maybe a little bit of compost with each potato. But there's another mulching experiment. You don't need to remove the grass, you don't need to do much other than gather lots of organic material and see what happens. It's all an experiment, and I think that's the bit where mulching is amazing. Now we are passing my fall fitness, my gym. So it's about 16 tons of, and a lot of I don't know how many tons, but a lot of wood chips for the pathways in the food forest. So that's the fitness, guys. But I mean, the weather is wonderful, and I love being out this time of year. It's you can work all day without getting too hot, and the soil is amazing. The smells are amazing. Another mulching experiment. It's not an experiment. This I know works in my garden. So maybe you can see. So this, you can see actually these are composting worms. These are not earthworms. Well, they are kind of earthworms, but I see these are composting worms. So they are composting this horse manure that I put on top of the grass, and then I added just about 5 centimeters of compost on top, and then I planted. I did this in spring, and you can already see how much the horse manure has been decomposing, and it is making the most amazing soil, I think. This really works well for my garden, and it's not a lot of work. I mean, I can really make big beds with not a lot of effort. It's just maybe, let's say, 10-15 wheelbarrows, and I have all of this to grow stuff in, and the tree is happier, and everything is more beautiful. So that this bed we did in spring, this spring, and then I have a fourth mulching example here. You can use any kind of organic material, and I just encourage you to experiment with combinations that you think work well, or create the kind of soil that you want in your garden. this bit is a strange combination. It was a matter of me having too much of something. So I had some wool and I didn't have anywhere to put it, so I had a lot of wool. I put that underneath, and then my neighbors gave me all their hedge clippings, so I put that on top. And now I've been putting compost on top. And I don't know how this will work, because if you have a look, this is the hedge clippings, and underneath, probably, if I can find it, there should be some wool. I have no idea how this is going to work out, but I'm thinking something would want to grow there. Maybe not perfect in the first year, but in a couple of years this will be delicious soil for something. And I was also thinking maybe that some critters would like to winter in the wool, so that should be nice. So horse manure, of course, I've said this so many times, but and compost and all the kind of organic material you can get your hands on, just mulch everywhere. And don't be afraid to stack it on. It might not be perfect straight away, but when it decomposes, it usually really finds its own way to create amazing soil for you to grow stuff in. So that's my take on mulching. I don't mulch anymore in the food forest. Maybe we can have a look inside, because the food forest is now 9 years old, meaning that the trees are so big, and the leaf material that falls now is covering the soil. So I have soil armor, even if it looks like there's a little bit of bare soil. It's not much, and I never remove the leaves in fall. So you can see everything is now pretty much covered, and it'll stay like this all winter to keep the soil warm and nice, and then it will start to decompose more in spring. And because I have now I have all the ground layers are established, I can't really put a thick layer of mulch in here anymore, because I will strangle some of the plants that are growing here. So the food forest is generating its own mulch every year, and that's wonderful. I don't need to do so much work in here anymore, in that respect at least. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and see you later.